What's good, Renegade Nation? Before we begin the video, I'd like to give a big shout out to our most recent Patreon supporters: Jalen Saunders, Nick, Thomas, Derek Kincaid, Purple Derpington, Joe Nathan Young, Texno, Mid Dinos, Isaac, Inico Melio, Elijah Williams, In Before You, X-Ray, Adeel Javed, Jay Hewitt, and Snowy Patley. Thank you very much for your support, and if you want to support us on Patreon, feel free to click the link below to find out more. We'll see you there. One thing you see a lot nowadays is, the whole thing with the Australian wildfires, which is terrible. It's terrible that that's happening. And, of course, the Iran ordeal going on as well, which, Iran invades our embassy. We take out one of their generals. They fire a missile at one of our bases. Nobody dies. We tell everybody, hey, we're backing off, but we're going to impose sanctions against Iran. And then Iran shoots down a Ukrainian airliner, which they say is accidental, but honestly, is anything really accidental anymore, given the technology that we have? I mean, I think they knew full well what they were doing, and they did it anyway. And I know everyone wants to blame America, which, look, I'm not going to pretend that America has not played its part in destabilizing the Middle East and thus causing the migrant issue that is currently plaguing all of Europe and a lot of other countries out there. Don't get me wrong. It's a terrible, terrible thing that's happening. And in all honesty, we just need to let bygones be bygones and leave everyone in the Middle East the hell alone. Because it's making more sense to do that than to do the stuff that we're doing, because not only are we killing people in the Middle East, but we're also sending boys over there to die in the Middle East.
Westerners say we're not doing anything. They are.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to stop. I mean, that's the really controlling oil resources, the way they prop up the value of the dollar. So it's not going to stop.
And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait to be done with oil, because don't get me wrong, oil has its place right now in the modern economy, but much like most non-renewable resources, eventually it will run out.
I mean, technically all resources are non-renewable.
Well, when you think about it, yeah. I mean, people talk about, well, wind's renewable, and I'm like, no, eventually the wind's going to stop blowing whenever our atmosphere disappears. And
they're strictly talking like, laws of thermodynamics.
Well, the biggest problem with
we'll be dead by then, though.
Oh yeah, but the biggest problem with like the quote unquote renewable resources is, in spite of them, making massive strides in the last 10 years, they become like 5 or 6 times as powerful as they were 10 years ago. It's still not enough to replace the American power grid as it stands. I mean, as a whole, anyway. Now, individually, if you do something like with what Tesla's doing with like the battery walls and the Tesla roofs, Tesla like solar panel roofs, yes, that may in fact be a possibility. However, given that, the government hates it when people think for themselves and want everyone to just suckle off the teat as much as possible and be reliant on the government for literally everything, they're going to continue to hand out grants for power companies to make these power stations that, honestly, people will continue to rely upon instead of relying upon themselves for power, and they'll continue to keep doing that. And
so far be it for me to stop anyone from complaining about the government, but is this related to the video?
Yes, in some ways.
Okay.
In some way.
I don't know what this is.
You don't know Kony2012?
I don't even know what you just said.
Okay. Well, our government has done a fair amount of terrible things, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Okay. The government's in other places in the world have also done very terrible things.
I mean, by definition, governments just do terrible things. That's their job.
Yeah. In particular, this is the story of, well, a few people, but one man in particular. And he was a filmmaker from Southern California who went on mission trips to Africa to help people out. And on one of those mission trips, he heard the story about this warlord in the one country, I believe it was Uganda. And this man's name, the warlord's name, was Joseph Kony. Joseph Kony is one of the worst offenders of human rights ever done. Mass subjugation, mass abductions, mass rapes, just terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. And the man sees himself as a god among men.
Fantastic.
And he is trying to, as he put it, liberate the Ugandan people from foreign influence, and also the terrible guise of Western education. And in order to do that, he has resorted to all types of mutilation, including, not excluding, genital mutilation, arm removal, leg removal, head removal, and including making the children that he abducts kill their own parents.
Okay.
So, hands down, some of the worst shit that you can imagine. And there was actually a movie that was made a while back called Beasts of No Nation that was on Netflix. That's on Netflix. If you want to check it out, it's still available on there.
I think you remember telling me about that.
It's got Idris Elba in it. He plays a warlord very similar to Joseph Kony in terms of his megalomaniac ways, and also his way of thinking. And it highlights the terribleness of what's going on in Africa with the small conflicts in each individual country. And but that aside, Kony2012 was a bit of a campaign that in one moment blew up and became the most popular thing on planet Earth.
What?
And when it happened, I remember the day that it happened. And honestly, the outcome of it is both disappointing, funny, and actually very sad when it comes to internet culture.
I've never heard of this.
Well, strap in, my friend.
Yeah.
This is the story of Kony2012 by the Internet Historian. Here we go.
Wait. What?
Kony2012 is the story of a man, Jason Russell, and
Hi,
his
Jason.
relentless quest to stop Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony. Let's begin with the action start. On March 5th, 2012, a charity called Invisible Children published a high-production video called Kony2012. It was an awareness campaign seeking to mobilize action to capture or kill Ugandan warlord Joseph Kony.
And the goal of the story was to make Kony famous.
30 minutes long, it really tried to pull at your heartstrings.
At the end of my life, I want to say that the world we've left behind is one that Gavin can be proud of. A place that doesn't allow Joseph Konys and child soldiers.
And little Gavin would have been proud, because it took off like no video on YouTube ever had.
Yeah.
We wanted 500,000 views in the whole year of 2012. We got 500,000 views in the first 3 hours.
It received 100 million views in the first 6 days. 1.4 million likes.
Yep.
Click that link in the description below They clicked it so hard the website went down, and the email was so inundated that the service provider assumed it was an attack and temporarily pulled the plug. The Times named it the most viral video ever. It raised the charity over $20 million. People really went fucking bananas for this video and those Ugandan kids. 4 million hashtags. People changed their Facebook profiles, so you knew it was a big deal. A fan-made mobile game. Are you woke about Joseph Kony? Yeah, but are you woke enough to get a tattoo? People were up for pretty much anything to stop Kony, as long as it didn't involve any practical action. One like equals one saved child. But who is Joseph Kony and what's all the fuss? Well, he's the leader of the Lord's Resistance Army, LRA.
My God, you're greasy.
And he really is one of the most evil people living today. Imagine the worst crime you can think of committing, and he'll have done it thousands of times over.
Takes children, makes them kill their parents and eat their parents.
The surviving girls would be kept as sex slaves, and the boys conscripted into the LRA as child soldiers.
I know, it's kind of a bummer.
It's all part of a civil conflict that's been going on for 30 years. We'll get into the details later, but for now, consider this our one-dimensional bad guy. And here's our protagonist, Jason Russell, the figurehead of Kony2012 and Invisible Children. He's a devout Christian, stereotypically Californian.
I do consider myself a refined valley dude.
But he has a bad boy side too. So it all starts in 2003 when, as a naive and aspiring filmmaker, he goes to Uganda with two friends in search of a story. While driving through a rural village,
A car was shot in front of us by a rebel army who was led by a guy named Joseph Kony.
they drive to a city for safety and find this. Turns out it's part of a nightly routine. Kids live in the villages, but commute to the city to sleep there to avoid being kidnapped in midnight raids by the LRA.
Thousands and thousands of kids, without an adult in sight.
Jason had found his story. And a cause. It must have made a real impression on him, because for the next 10 years he dedicated himself, almost exclusively, to trying to improve things in Uganda and stop Kony. Kony2012 was the culmination, but in the preceding years he tried a bunch of other schemes. This.
The Bracelet Campaign.
This.
White Daily broadcast about where the LRA is and where they're active.
And this.
Do what we always do. Dance.
This is all real.
We're on a mission for Uganda deep inside your mind.
Wow.
It needs attention and a dance to make it sparkle and shine. We gotta shake it up and break it up and let the war without a gun.
Naturally, questions have been raised about his sexual orientation.
All these other rumors too that you were gay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard those rumors.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with saving
I started
children?
a large children's theater organization, so I am
Theatrical.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Straight men are allowed to enjoy musicals. It's current year. Back to Kony2012. So the video lays out a plan called Cover the Night. Here's what you do. Pay $30 for your super special Kony action kit. Whoa, that's nice. In the kit you'll find 5 items. Button, bracelet, stickers, shirt, and these posters. Then, on April 20th, in the dead of night, go out and vandalize your town with awareness.
And wake up to hundreds of thousands of posters demanding justice on every corner.
It was going to be amazing. Everyone was on board. The countdown to April 20th had begun, and all Jason and Co had to do was keep the momentum going and not fuck it up.
Guess what happened?
This is the new way to move the world to action.
But this movie is not without critics.
Critics say the film manipulates the facts.
simplifying the story.
Oversimplifying a wildly complex
That's the message is too late. Joseph Kony and his forces have been significantly reduced.
Pro-war activism.
Utterly naive. By next week, this will be a passing fad.
These white Westerners sort of getting on a bandwagon, and actually they haven't got a clue what they're talking about.
A day or two later, the heady excitement gave way to more down-to-earth analysis. Media commentators started making scathing critiques of the video. And testimony from Uganda wasn't entirely positive either.
It's unfortunate that we can have people who are merchandising but using people's problems.
Then it got really serious. Teenage girls started weighing in.
Oh, that's right.
So I asked my mom, and my mom laughs and goes, "He died like 5 years ago."
This is wrong, by the way, but it was seen by 4 million people. From a source of "my mum said it, so it must be true." The term slacktivism started cropping up more and more. Legitimate questions were asked. How will the money donated be spent?
That invisible children would send would have to go to the Ugandan military.
Why did you put your son in the film?
You know, why would you put your son in the film? You know, why did you put yourself in the film? Those questions about our sincerity.
Why are they saying Kony is in Uganda when he's actually in the Central African Republic? Invisible Children wasn't popular among other charities either. They were hogging the limelight. And they released Kony2012 just 2 days before International Women's Day, a critical fundraising time for some. Even the Ugandan Prime Minister took a few jabs.
We do not need a sleek video on YouTube for us to take notice.
Once people started feeling misled, they turned against the organization and squared the blame on one person. The pressure was building. Online backlash and a hectic schedule was starting to take a toll.
My phone was getting 10 text messages every second. It was just...
Millions of supporters on one side, millions of critics on the other.
On and on and on.
Make Kony famous? Well, it made Jason famous too. And the pressure kept increasing. He was flying all over the country to spread his message.
Took the red eye to New York, landed at 5 in the morning.
Working around the clock.
On the Today Show, People Magazine, Reuters. By day 3, I was in LA doing interview after interview after interview.
17 interviews in 48 hours. Wow. So
he was sleeping less and becoming more erratic.
Not being able to sleep, not being able to stop my racing mind.
Criticism from every direction.
And it was like, you're the worst. You're terrible. And Kony's dead.
They started saying the whole project was for his ego, or based on greed. And not just criticism, responsibility. How are you going to stop children from being murdered, Jason? You promised a solution, Jason. When are you going to deliver Kony?
At the end of that day, my mind was exhausted.
To release the pressure, he and his family tried to take a couple of days off by going to Palm Springs. But people recognized him there too, so they hid away in their hotel room with the curtains closed. Jason was starting to crack. Paranoia, delusions of grandeur. He went with his family to see the Lorax, and he thought the film was speaking to him directly. Voices in Jason's head told him that he needed to get to New York in the next 12 hours or Kony would win, whatever that meant. Then, he stripped off all of his clothes and ran out into the street.
I was on a street in San Diego, totally naked and crazy out of my mind. Someone driving by in a car took a video on their phone, and they sold it to TMZ for $30,000. And then my naked and crazy mess went viral as well.
Some have said that he was jacking it, and that he was on drugs. Neither is true. It's just a very distressed man having a mental episode.
Were you also masturbating? Yeah. Did I hear that too?
No one who was there ever said that that was happening. Yeah. I'm naked, so it's not a far extension of, imagination.
He was taken to the hospital, not jail.
Police say when they showed up, they didn't see any of that and was taken to a local medical facility that he was not arrested though.
And there, he thought the staff were trying to kill him.
Just one of those things where I'm like, I don't believe what you're saying. You're trying to kill me.
He ran around in his underwear, kicking in doors until eventually he was subdued and sedated.
Did you come back to yourself as you know yourself?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks, whoa.
Yeah.
Later on, one Sharona Reed tried to sue Mr. Russell for the trauma of having to see him do naked calisthenics. As far as I can tell, though, that lawsuit went nowhere.
Can you think of anything else that's worse than running around naked going like this on TMZ?
Well, maybe one thing. While all of this was happening, the countdown to the day of action was still ticking. Thousands of kits had been sold. Get ready for an awareness campaign so effective you'll think you're living in Uganda. The kids rolled out into the street. Selfie sticks and posters ready. Let's do it. Let's save those kids.
I remember. Okay. UVA-wise, I was in college at the time. UVA-wise, there were a bunch of kids going around with the kits, like posting stuff up on the.
I have no clue about any of this. Never seen one of these posters until this video.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
None of it.
For real, yeah.
Damn. Me, it's just like I remember it happening, and I'm just like, damn. It's pretty crazy.
Changing the world. Oh, God, yes. But it wasn't all well intended. Some took it as a chance to vandalize their neighborhood with impunity.
Oh.
The adults were left to clean up the mess. And despite the impression you might get from this fancy montage, the turnout was abysmal. Here are some figures. Toronto, 50,000 people registered. Real attendance? 50. Sydney, 18,000 people registered. Real attendance? 12. Montreal, 4,800 registered. Real attendance? 0. Instead, they cancelled their event and put up a post calling Invisible Children a fraud organization. This is what 4 million Kony hashtags gets you. Now, I bet you want to know where Invisible Children, Jason Russell, and Kony are now. But before I tell you that, I want to go on 2 quick tangents of things I found while researching. In the Kony2012 video, you'll see this guy, Luis Moreno Ocampo, Chief Prosecutor for the International Criminal Court. This would be the organization that charges Kony if he was ever caught. Well, in 2017, a bunch of Louis' emails were leaked, and they detailed one hell of a caper to catch Kony and bring him to justice. I'm not making any of the following up, right? Here's the plan. Lure Kony out of the jungle with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie as bait.
Straight from a Hollywood movie, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt attempting to arrest an African warlord.
So it would go, the A-list couple would fly to the edge of the jungle where Kony is hiding and call him up with an invitation to dinner. Kony, starstruck, would of course say yes. He'd show up, presumably bottle of wine in hand and ready to mingle. Then, imagine his shock. It was a trap all along. Special forces would pop out from behind the salad bar and get their guy.
One idea appears to have been for Angelina Jolie to lure him to a private dinner where he would be arrested.
It was a foolproof plan, but unfortunately, it was never realized. Once Miss Jolie stopped responding to Louis' weird emails, Ocampo approached George Clooney for use of his spy satellite.
The chief prosecutor had also attempted to recruit George Clooney in a plot to fly spy satellites over Libya.
Yes, that's correct. George Clooney partnered with a satellite company to spy on al-Bashir of Sudan. Okie doke. Anyway, he responded that the satellite wasn't powerful enough, so then Ocampo moved on to his backup date, Sean Penn, whom he invited to the UN security meeting in South Sudan. What?
Hold on.
Update, Sean Penn.
Sean Penn at vigil for Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez.
I wasn't going to say anything.
He's a dumbass.
Well, I'm just, based on everyone I've seen in this video, we're not exactly dealing with big brain time right here.
Oh, yeah. Big brain. Massive brain.
Whom he invited to the UN
the
security
biggest of brain.
meeting in South Sudan. What? And there were some people having fun with Kony2012 as well. Turns out Kony looks a lot like Carl Weathers in the movie Predator. So an idea was formed. Take this screenshot from Predator, post it on Facebook, and say how great he is without mentioning the name. Then wait for some Slacktivists to immediately assume it's Joseph Kony, Then you call them racist. It was good for a few minutes of fun. Then they tried it on the official meetup pages. Promptly deleted it.
Wow.
And we're back. So get a load of this total car crash, dumpster fire, shitstorm, diaper hurricane, am I right, guys? Well, no. Despite all the mishaps and poor turnout, Kony2012 was a massive success. The goal was to make an obscure warlord in rural Uganda a household name. And they succeeded. A reach in the hundreds of millions on a budget of about $1.5 million. Any marketing agency would kill for that. In fact, 7 years later, you probably clicked on this video because you have some vague notion of Kony and that video already. Now, let me give you a very brief rundown on where everyone is, then let's get out of here. Invisible Children, outside of long-term and small-scale projects, they've largely ceased operations. Joseph Kony, he's still out there, but his army is shrinking and splintering. He is effectively in hibernation. And Jason Russell. He's no longer with Invisible Children. He's also been breakdown free since 2012, but he's still doing the activism thing. Look, I've had to gloss over so many details in this video, and there are so many more questions to be answered, but I don't want this video to be an hour long or to take 2 months more to make, so I'm going to round this one off with a Q&A on the second channel. What about that $20 million they raised? Why didn't the US military or the Ugandan military ever just bomb the shit out of Kony? What did Kony have to say about the video? All of these questions, and a ton more, plus any questions you may have of your own. Uganda want to see it. Boo. Remember Ugandan Knuckles?
Well, okay.
Yeah, that was Joseph Kony, Kony2012. An absolute firestorm that took off and then had some bad press thrown on it, some fake news thrown on it, and
seems like it got pretty wild.
Oh yeah, it was fun for like the first few hours. You know, just like everyone coming together and being like, yeah, you know, we can help. We can actually help these people. We can actually help the children in Uganda. I mean, we can stop this dude from kidnapping them. And then, you know, all the stories came out. That one girl who said, is like, yeah, my mom said that he died like 5 years ago. Yeah. I'm going to believe a girl on the interwebs over a dude, you know, a girl on the interwebs who probably has never been to Uganda, over a guy who actually went to Uganda, filmed the real shit, and is still really good friends with one of the children that he he helped out.
One would imagine those children weren't walking into the city every night to sleep behind walls for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes without saying. And then, of course, the Ugandan military. Here's the thing about Africa and politics. There's a reason why there are how many wars going on in Africa right now?
Heck if I know.
Yeah. I believe around 7 or 8 wars are going on right now. Actually, let's Google it. How many wars in Africa? 15. I was wrong. Double my assessment. 15 wars are going on currently in Africa. I'm sorry. I gotta do this. My goodness gracious, that is ridiculous. That is legit, like, terrifying to think about. Could you imagine if there were 15 wars going on here in the States and Canada? I know there's going to be one going on in Virginia here soon. You know, yeah, VA represent, baby. Keep your guns, boys.
Well, I mean, we're in Tennessee, but
no, I'm originally from Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying we're right there though. So
yeah, we could throw a rock and be in Virginia. So we are right on the state line.
Nobody wants to get slappy with an Appalachian Hill gremlin. That's all I'm saying.
Getting slap happy in Appalachia. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing about a bunch of people in this area. A bunch of people in this area are a bunch of gun-toting rednecks. And when I say rednecks, I mean the traditional term, not the derogatory one that everybody uses nowadays. If you actually want to know what a redneck is, go back and look at what it means. You know what redneck originally was?
Originated with the coal miners' strike.
Yes.
The red bandanas.
Yes.
But you do see a lot of people that, laborers and stuff that work outside that their necks are just red.
Well, yeah, that's the stereotypical thing. But overall, man, I mean, people in this area, we like our guns. We like our freedom. And to obstruct that is indefensible. You cannot expect people to go along happily with what you want because you think it's for the greater good for people. You're punishing people for no reason other than the fact that you think you know what's best. It's like me saying, "Oh, I think everyone should like from now on I want everyone to just call me Supreme God Emperor Nathan Hamilton. And if you don't do that, I'm going to get my gun out and I'm going to shoot you." Is that fair? No. It's like, okay, if you don't stop eating meat right now, then you're going to jail. Like eating meat will be like imagine eating meat being a punishable offense by the law.
Be a lot of people in jail.
Most people would be in jail. So what did you make of the whole Kony2012 thing? I mean, think it was pretty nuts?
I mean, if the charity's doing good work, any money they raise for it is a good thing. I mean, it kind of seemed like a flash in the pan. It was like they didn't really have an end game.
Well, they did, but at the same time, they just raised so much awareness so fast.
That prosecutor was like wackadoo crazy though.
Yeah,
I feel like we're gonna
Well,
I mean, don't get me wrong. It'd be kind of cool to see Brad Jelena capture a African warlord, and but I mean, this dude just sounded like a moron. Like, how did he get in that position when he's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna have George Clooney find him with his spy satellite"? Like, really? Like, bunch of Northeast Tennessee hillbillies. People make fun of us. I'm pretty sure I could get some bubble gum, some paper clips, and MacGyver a plan better than that.
Dude, you could draw up a thing on the back of a Jack in the Box bag with a crayon and come up with a better plan than that dude.
Well, I mean, that's the thing though. Government will spend $1 billion to do absolutely nothing. Like, I just pay somebody in Bitcoin to smuggle me over there and just do it myself. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's literally all you got to do. Be like,
if I was,
what?
I was just if I really wanted to do that.
You could if you wanted to. He strokes his beard, thinking very strongly about the potential possibility of that. It's like, how are you going to escape the country, Bitcoin?
I mean, maybe I'll just stay there. Make my own country.
Yeah. If I could move anywhere, Singapore. I mean, looser restrictions on businesses, also very low taxes, if any taxes at all. And also technological mecca, pretty much, and a lot of people there speak English too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they'll know what's up.
I'm just gonna have a little cabin with a little wood stove in it, and just heat it with politicians, old school. It'd be great.
Sic semper tyrannis, my friend. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it. This was The Story of Kony2012 by the Internet Historian. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see the original video, link is in the description down below, as always. If you want to see more from us, subscribe button, ring that bell to stay notified. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. And I guess until next time, everybody, signing off, I'm Nate.
Micah.
And we will see you all in the next one, everybody. Peace out.